cloud. Ange, you want to go over some housekeeping stuff as we welcome everybody as they start kind of jumping into the meeting here?
Yeah, just a reminder that everything is being recorded, and we will hopefully have all of the recordings up on the website early next week. That was the burning question yesterday. I got lots of emails about that. Thank you for joining, and be familiar with the agenda, have a look at what's going on, jump in, jump out. If you're having any trouble accessing some of the Zoom sessions, my recommendation is refresh your screen or refresh your the web page when you go to the I think Matt, have you just put the page in the chat?
I will.
But just do a refresh if you're finding that there's any challenges. Have a look at the top right hand corner. I know it's the top right hand corner on my screen. You can toggle and you can change your Zoom preferences a little bit there, so you can, depending on whether or not you want to see all four of us right now and see the presentation screen when we're sharing screens, all that kind of stuff. Everybody is muted, but please use chat where you can. Have a conversation with us. Let us know that you're here. Questions, if you have questions for the presenter, use the question box when it's a specific question about the content, because that will highlight, that will go to the top of the page for the presenter. And have fun. You know what? We are. I think we're all wearing pants today. That was the question.
I'm wearing pants, but it's not. I'm not wearing real pants. I'm wearing gym shorts versus a suit in normal conference attire. So we'll see if the because day 2 at the conference is always everyone starts strolling in late, as we were talking about before. Like last year in Nashville, everyone had was going down Broadway and touring all the Nashville honky-tonk bars and having a good time. And so people run in a little late to start the morning on day 2. So we'll see if that pattern continues when we do this thing from home. All right.
So
I know people are still starting to roll in, and we wanted to make sure, Lego movie. Yeah, there you go. Where's my pants? But want to make sure. So Anthony Grost, with Homebridge, we had some technical issues yesterday morning, and we wanted to make sure, because he had some awesome tips he was going to share, and we wanted to make sure that he got an opportunity to share those, because, well, they're awesome, and want to make sure that you guys get an opportunity to say it. So what we're going to do for the first few minutes here is let Anthony walk through his 5 creating awesome tips, and then what we'll do is we'll dive in with Jake Scherrer and myself for our presentation right immediately following that. So Anthony, the floor is yours. So take us through your tips.
Well, great. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you. This is version 2.0. This is Anthony Grost with Homebridge. 2020 has been a crazy and challenging year for all of us, from COVID-19 to the stay-at-home orders. We've had the largest, fastest economic downturn in history, and this has really shocked and impacted both buyer demand and confidence. In addition, we've witnessed the biggest shift in technology use and adoption probably ever, as all sales have moved online. 2020 has really flipped the digital switch, as I say, and really impacted our business. Now, as sales leaders, as business leaders, we've had to adapt and modify quickly both our online presence as well as our sales processes. But today I look at builder websites, and they're robust and engaging. They have photos and 3D walkthroughs and virtual walkthroughs and online sales consultants and social and all these things, search engine optimization, which is fantastic. But what about your lending content? Lending has been left behind in this digital switch. Year to date this year, 88% of all new homes bought and closed in the United States, comes from CoreLogic data, utilized financing. So upgrading your financing content and communication are absolutely critical to find success in this new normal. So today I'm going to share 5 ideas around content, communication, and some sales strategies that'll help you manage in this new environment. So let's get after it and talk about idea number 1. Well, if I can get my page to advance, number 1, market intelligence. And I say, do you see the market? As lenders, we have all sorts of data that we get, but we rarely share it with builders. And what I notice with the builders is they have a great intel on the markets where they're building. They know the price points, they know the neighborhoods, they know the cost of building, the amenities, the features, the upgrades they need to have on these homes. They know the schools, but few builders truly understand how buyers purchase their homes. So having an understanding of buyer financing preferences at different price points, depth and density of the market, and most importantly, the demographics of your buyers will give both your sales team and your lenders insight on how to communicate and connect with buyers. So here's some quick, 4 quick examples of some data. Number one on the left side. This data comes from Apopka, Florida, which is the northwest corner of Orlando Metro. This is one small zip code. First 5 months, there were 102 new homes closed. I'm looking at this simply as an overview of what does the market look like. 65% of buyers are conventional, so that means they're generally higher credit score, more money down. What's interesting is the lack of cash buyers, but those cash buyers that are buying have a tendency to be buying at a higher price point than the average in the market. That tells me they're downsizers or empty nesters, most likely from the Northeast moving down, not investors. The chart on the right gives me a different perspective of the buying activity. Again, new homes in that area. 49% of the buyers put less than 10% down. 13% put between 10 and 19% down. What that means is 62% of buyers in that market are less than 20% down. Now, my estimation, that means they are below average financial strength. That doesn't mean bad credit. It means they lack the ability to weather interest rate movement and price increases. So if I'm in a builder in this area, I would want to make sure that my pipeline is taken care of, that those buyers are truly credit approved and their rates are locked. More importantly, if you're a builder doing and offering upgrades, those buyers don't have the cash for upgrade. So are you going to allow them to finance it? And if you are, you need to think about and plan for that in advance. Couple more little graphs to look at. The one on the left is what we call a dot plot. And what that shows you is each dot represents the sales price of a new home sold and recorded since January in that market. And what you're looking for, think of it as a fish meter. Depth and density of buyers at different price points. Are they trending up? Are they trending down? Are they thinning? Dead center in the middle is March, lots of activity. April and May start to thin. So this is just perspective on where my price point is, where are the fish? The most important one is the one on the right, which shows buyer demographics. And in here, this is critical. It shows you which age groups are purchasing your homes. And this is important in today's digital switch because the silent generation and the boomers aren't using the technology. It's the Gen X's and it's the millennials. And in this case, 38% of the buyers are millennials. Now, if you follow Zillow's new construction report, they'll tell you that millennials represent 41% of the market, and about 42% of the time they buy above their price range. So that is a higher, either a better home, a higher priced home, they're above their budget, or they're upgrading. But here's the thing, they have great credit, low down. So how are you accommodating in advance? What are you doing to plan for their ability to leverage to get in? This is how data can really help you in the market. So let's move on to the next one here. Second idea, interactive financing content. As I said, we got a lot of millennials, you better have content to engage them. So here's 3 good ideas, popular ideas that you can add to your online presence to help out. Number 1, videos, educational videos. Videos engage buyers while they're on your website researching their home. So you want to work with your lenders to create some videos on a variety of topics and build a library. For me personally, video is the best way to engage. Why? Because it is a more personal way to connect with a buyer than the traditional forms of lender communication, which is what? Email. The number 1 topic today that we get asked across the country from buyers is it a good time to buy? Again, putting this up on site will engage buyers. It's proactive, it's not reactive. What else can you put on your website? You can do interactive tools. What are interactive tools? Interactive tools are professionally produced, either little instructional, educational movies or information that have embedded tools that buyers can manipulate. In other words, they can adjust these tools to fit their situation to see different scenarios and results. Really popular right now on these interactive tools is rent versus buy, wealth creation, as well as the loan process. Well, what else could you be using? Pictures, even in the digital age, pictures work. Pictures tell 1,000 words. My favorite pictures to use are infographics. Infographics are visual representations a variety of topics that are easily understood. The best part about utilizing infographics is you can use them all over everything that you do. You can use them as point of sale. You can use them on a flat screen in a model home. You can put them on foam core boards. Really engaging with buyers. Sales teams can engage and discuss these with buyers, and you can use it to online content, social media. They're mobile compatible. You can co-brand them. You can text them. So very, very flexible in terms of how you can use these and share these with buyers. So those are just a few ideas on the content side. But the more content, the better, because you want to engage while they're researching their home on your site. So let's move on and talk about communication. Real-time communication with buyers about financing while they're online. What am I talking about here? This is a brand new tool that Chip and I have been developing that will allow buyers in real time to ask questions about financing and interact with lenders while they're on your site. In other words, you now have lending has the ability to connect with your buyers while they're researching at the zero moment of truth. What is the zero moment of truth? Zero moment of truth is a Google term which refers to that point in the sales process where a buyer has made a decision to start researching a purchase. This is a key online decision-making moment. Now, lending has never been anywhere around zero moment of truth. In fact, it starts way in the beginning, and it's a nebulous thing. Nobody knows what it is, or it starts late in the process and it's a rush to the finish line. Worse yet, most lending interaction takes place off your site. They have to stop research and then they have to jump over. This tool will be an absolute game changer for interacting with buyers early on, keeping in mind 88% of buyers today are financing. So if you want to learn more about this tool, reach out to Chip Johnson at Builder Designs. He'll be releasing more information on it shortly. Okay, so now let's talk about some sales ideas. I'm going to finish with 2 sales ideas. Now, this one says create a buyer advantage program, but let me explain the problem that I get. So I routinely get calls from builders on a variety of different topics. And what stuck out recently were 2 problems. So the first problem, and this is what we're going to talk about here, is that, I am collecting all these names. We have all these prospective buyers that want to know about upcoming communities, pricing, releases, when is it coming out? And I'm not ready to release it, but how do I keep them around? How do I make them sticky? Now, this solution also specifically is one of the foundational items for the Buy It Now platform, which is also in development that Chip's working on. And this is a great opportunity here. So you want to create a buyer advantage program. What is it? It's simply a program that buyers can sign up for that give them some benefits. Think of it like going to a music show. I bought the VIP tickets because I get the special parking, special entrance, early entrance, cocktail, better seating type of thing. So how does it work? It's simply this. It's a special program where buyers can get fully credit approved and lock their interest rate up to 6 months in advance of selecting and closing their home. Let me repeat that. They get fully credit approved and they're able to lock their interest rate, taking advantage of historically low interest rates while they're selecting their home 6 months in advance. Now they're doing this in exchange for benefits. This type of lock has existed, but most lenders don't utilize it. So this is really a unique application that I think can pay great dividends for you. Now, from a builder's perspective, if you have a fully credit approved buyer, what does that get you? Oh my goodness. They're actually approved at the time you sign purchase and sale. It means better pipeline. You don't have as much dropout, on-time closings, buyer satisfaction, much more clarity and control of that pipeline. From your buyer's perspective, what is it that they're getting? Well, first of all, they're getting to take advantage of these historically low interest rates, and inventory is low, so they're not stressed out while they shop and select their home. It's a huge advantage. Now, you hear me talking about benefits. Here's some of the benefits that I've been discussing with builders about how to utilize this buyer program. Number 1, if you're part of our buyer program, you're first to choose your lot and your home. We're going to require less earnest money because you're credit approved. We're going to allow you to finance upgrades rather than pay cash because we know you are credit approved. We'll waive any late closing. Some builders are also looking at little sweeteners like upgraded appliances, landscaping, maybe an outdoor feature or some minor financing incentive. But buyers like these benefits, and this is a great way to make that big pool of prospects sticky for you. Okay, last idea is coming up with a long-term pre-sale strategy. The second problem I get a lot of questions about and has come up a lot is, you know, I have my homes, they're priced, it's a great community, we have all this activity, buyers want to buy, but I can't deliver the home for 6 to 9 months. That is a problem we see all the time out there in the market. So you want to develop a long-term pre-sale strategy that incorporates extended locks. Now, extended locks are available through a lot of lenders, but here's the thing, the structures vary all over the map. And so as a builder, you absolutely want to make sure the extended lock structures you're offering are truly competitive. So you have to do a little homework. So I'm encouraging you to look for 3 things. Number 1, the extended lock needs to match the term of the home construction. You can routinely find extended locks today out to 12 months. Number 2, the extended lock has to offer a free float down to market rate. I am not talking a formula. I'm not talking a funky float down thing. True market rate, because buyers today believe maybe interest rates will go down. Then they need to have that option to float down and take advantage. Third, all extended locks have some form of fee or deposit. That needs to be 100% credited back at closing. In other words, it cannot be an extra financial burden placed on your buyers. That will eliminate the benefit of this program. So if you fully implement a pre-sale strategy with an extended lock, you'll absolutely convert more hesitant buyers to sales in your neighborhood. I went through a lot of different ideas for you there very, very quickly. There's many, many more that are out there. If you'd like to connect with me online, discuss any of these further, feel free to connect with me. It's been a pleasure sharing this with you today. Matt, Angela, everybody, Jake, thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Anthony. Really appreciate it. Great stuff.
Thank you.
All right. All right. There you go. I'm going to take Anthony back to attendee. Perfect. Okay, just to let everybody know, as we dive in, if you don't want to see if someone's video, one of our videos turned off, and instead of having that little block of just our name or our headshot or something on there, and that when you hover over that picture, there's 3 little dots, you can click on hide participants not showing video, and then it'll take everybody else out of there, and that way you'll only see whose video's turned on. So anyway, just a little thing there. All right, Jake, what's happening? Oh,
how are you doing?
There you go. How's it going today? Everybody ready? We are, let me get in here. I'm going to click share my screen. Jake, I'm going to wait for you to I'm going to go full screen here.
We're good.
Give me a little, are we good? Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, home builder tech.
Perfect. Okay, so we are going to dive into the new home buyer journey, motivations and misconceptions. So I am your co-host, Matt Riley with Group 2, and I have with me Jake Scherrer, Senior Sales Director of New Construction at Zillow. That is a mouthful of a title, but he is worth every word in there.
It's been a title I've had for a while. Talk to Lucy.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to kind of get going through here, and Jake, you just pause, and I'm controlling the slides. You just kind of let me know when you want me to advance.
Yeah, cool. All right, so thank you for everyone attending. So once again, Zillow, we're full of data. You guys know the industry. We're not going to pretend to know the industry as well as you do, but we definitely know the buyers because we have lots of data on them. So instead of the usual kind of 20,000 foot level look down on our consumer housing trends report this year, we're really going to dive into 2 specific groups mainly. We're going to go over their wants, their pain points, and really demonstrate the opportunities to be able to dive in with them a little bit deeper and really develop those connections.
Hold on. Here we go. There we go.
All right. Promise we'll get a hold of this. Okay, so consumer housing trends report this year, same thing. We're sampling over, roughly 13,000 key household decision makers who identified as one of the following. So we got buyers, sellers, homeowners, renters. And what makes this year unique is we actually were able to take a sample size of about 1,000 new construction buyers who actually purchased a new home within the last 2 years and were able to, as always, kind of have or this year and then last year have a subset of new construction data that none of the other marketplaces at Zillow have. Obviously, this data, this is all pre-COVID. So it's really going to be fascinating to see this year's Consumer Housing Trends Report, when we assemble all the data, how much it differs because of the pandemic that we're going through. So, you know, how they look at new construction might have changed, but not their communication needs is my point.
Absolutely.
All right, so who is the new construction buyer? So this next slide, this is one of my favorites, and we've had this every single year for the last couple of years. First off, the West and the South. This is where 81% of new construction purchases are, largely dominated still by the South. You know, I say it's the 3 L's: land, labor, and lumber. And, you know, the Midwest, it's shrinking a little bit. Northwest, shrinking a little bit more. So you can see that, you know, the demand as well as the supply, it's there in the South. In the West, there's a lot of people moving west. Obviously, a lot of technology is drawing people out there. And new construction, the key is becoming more and more popular out in the West as people find the things that they're looking for in their home. First and foremost, the buyers are still out there, regardless of this pandemic, kind of hot off the presses. We actually have some stats as of last week. So for the week of 6/14 to 6/20, new construction page views for new construction, they're up 95% from a year ago.
Wow.
The intensity is there. That's the point. We're not saying that there's that many more buyers and we've just flooded the market because Zillow's saying so. You know, a lot of people have shifted from, you know, a little bit more traditional kind of old school methods to online, which has helped increase that number. But there's a lot more people that are using online. And I would say that's obviously because of the pandemic, but also because a lot of builders are shifting their focus. And then it's up about 25% from January and February. What's even more impressive is January and February were super strong.
You know, Jake, what's going to be really interesting here is obviously how these numbers shift around. Once this work from anywhere, be able to work from home really starts to take root. And it'll be interesting to see specifically on the West Coast, where these buyers, if these buyers start to relocate to other maybe more affordable regions of the country outside of like the California coast. So it'll be interesting how this starts to shake out as COVID has shaped how we're going to continue to live and work.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting if we could ever do like on a micro level, right? Look within states where they're heavily populated in cities like LA, San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, to see if they're moving a little bit more onto the outskirts.
Yep, absolutely.
That would be interesting. But, you know, obviously there's a lot of reasons why people are buying new construction. Once again, this is all pre-COVID, but it is so relevant now, which is pretty interesting. So after 4+ months of shelter in place, you start to know what you really like and dislike about your home.
Yeah.
So 41%, you know, everything in the home is new or never used. And as we've heard from a lot of people is, you know, it's not infected. You know, used homes, there's less inventory, there's less people wanting to show their homes right now. But new construction, the fact that everything is new in the sense that it's like quote unquote clean, that's helped propel. And so this was relevant late last year, and it's going to be really relevant this year. Desirable location, right? Work from home. You know, you can pretty much live anywhere now if you're able to work from home. So this is going to be something that's going to be super important to people as well. Appealing home features, right? Once again, you've been stuck in your home for 4+ months. You start to find the features that become more appealing, you know, conducive to that work from home lifestyle. And then you can see, you know, best value for the money, ability to customize, ability to select a floor plan, which is big. And we'll go over those a little bit later as we touch on these two specific groups I'm going to go over.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the ability to select floor plan is going to be even a more important thing. And as we start breaking down our two main buyer demographics, our millennial buyer and the boomer buyer, I think these things really start to come into play. So what we've got here is this is just kind of setting up really big picture of what we're going to dive into in detail here in just a bit.
And then this stat, as our ability to kind of like survey everyone gets better and better each year, and we can get more people in new construction, we can really hone in on on kind of the accuracy of this. So, it's astounding. And it's great to know that 64% of buyers are considering new construction. But once again, only 9% actually purchase. The two biggest reasons, 46% because of price and 37% because of timing. The gap is going to close. I think we're witnessing it right now. The struggles in resale are helping fuel kind of the interest in new construction. So COVID might have a little bit to do with it, but we'll definitely take it. But the key here in the organic way that we're going to help close that gap is communication. Know how to communicate with these specific groups of people. This is how we're really going to close it. But obviously, COVID is probably closing this gap that I think we're going to see in our updated survey numbers from this year.
Yeah, and I really think this is where we're going to make a big impact as a new construction industry. I mean, only having 9% purchase new construction, I think we truly have the ability to double that because of some of the things we're going to talk about here in just a bit. So, just to kind of look at, Zillow looks at as their numbers, they're looking at kind of everything on aggregate. And what I wanted to share here was some really specific home builder website traffic specifics, right? And I shared a couple of these things yesterday a little bit. So I'm just recapping this, and then I'm going to hit on a few other things. So this is, Jake shared and is going to share some more about how much traffic that they're seeing. And really what we like to do here is look at actual buyer intent from how they're actually engaging with home buyers all across the country. So just in a short period of time, right before pre-COVID, and then obviously right in the midst of it, and then where we're at today, what we're looking at on this line chart is the dark blue line is 2020, the light blue line is 2019, and that dotted yellow orange line at the top is that end of year surge that we all saw right after the holidays. So at the end of the year 2019, that was the high watermark for 2019. And you can start to see where we started off, and this starts on March 1, and this other little piece of like the Batman ear over here at the beginning of March, that is right before COVID really became a reality across other areas of the country outside of, say, Seattle, in that area. And then for about a 10-day period, we had a drop-off. We saw a big drop of about 35%, and it lasted, and it was steep, and it lasted for about 10 days straight. So we went from about March 10th till about March 20th, and then we started to see that week over week steady climb up. And the demand of where we're at, we've surpassed the high water mark on multiple occasions at the 2019 high water mark. And this is where we're seeing now, you can see that delta between 2019 and 2000 and right now of where we're at, and that demand. Now this is all website traffic. Now here's the other part that really showcases consumer demand, because total website traffic really gives us a picture of everything, all advertisements, everything like that, right? So this is actually showing organic search, so no ad dollars behind it, purely buyers searching for new homes new homes for sale. This is specific to home builder action. And you can start to see about the same time range, around the same date range, about March 10th, we started to see that steep decline. And organic traffic saw a larger impact than the rest of it because there was no money behind this. But as you start to look, this organic traffic, again, high watermark, and you can see the green trend line that's showing organic traffic is consumer intent, and that is really continuing to stay on the rise. So really, really impactful data for what we're looking at. And then on the last piece, before we kind of dive back into a holistic perspective, this is what people are searching for in general. So understanding from a Google Trends perspective what they're searching for. And some of this plays into what we were talking about, is being able to select your actual floor plan. So people looking at home office, home gyms, gardens, pools, how to make bread. I don't know why people were searching for how to make bread. I don't know if they thought there was going to be a run on the grocery stores and we wanted to be prepared for the apocalypse. Jake, did you guys make bread at home?
No.
We did not either, but for whatever reason, sourdough bread was like the thing of what people were searching for. But how do we take what we know people are searching for? And this scale is 0 to 100, just kind of like our school grade used to be, 0 to 100. 100 is the cap. It can't get any greater than 100. Look where these numbers were. They were at 100. So this is where people were searching, and we're going all the way back from January 1. They're searching for offices, gyms, how to make bread, how to garden. I mean, people are preparing for the apocalypse. However, all of this has a play into your home, how you live, how you work, and how you live, and the floor plan selection. And this is where I think we have the opportunity to close that gap and take 9% purchasers of buying new to double that. Personally.
I agree. So we're going to dive into a little bit more detail of these two buyers, and it's millennials and it's the baby boomers or boomers. Okay, so millennials, they're taking up the lion's share, 41% of new construction buyers, followed by baby boomers. Now, we're not going to go over the Gen Xers here. If you take care of the millennials, our thought is you take care of the millennials and you take care of the baby boomers, you're going to take care of the Gen Xers. And so we want to kind of bookend, talk about communication styles, what is it that their pain points, what is it that they're looking for, so you guys can tailor marketing campaigns and really, you know, capture their money. But first, we're going to dive into the millennial buyers. So this is going to be high level. We're actually going to go through each of these bullet points separately, but this is the largest generation in concentration of new construction buyers out there. And then, you know, the big thing to know about this group, especially around communication, is they're more likely to move due to life events. Obviously, a big life event we have going on right now is this pandemic, but, you know, think children, marriage, jobs. They also rely heavily on tech. They are more financially strapped, right? So this is why this group in the past maybe hadn't been the biggest purchaser of new construction, but is slowly growing as they get older and they do become a little bit more financially secure. They have greater communication needs. I think that's something we can all recognize. And overall, they just experience more pain points. But like I said, we're going to dive into these here in a little bit.
So as we set up that millennial buyer, which a lot of times is a first-time buyer, and we start to look at what people are searching for, like we were talking about the Google Trends section, right? This is also coming straight from Google. The trend, so this is a great resource. If you go to trends.google.com, you can specifically look for whatever kind of trend that you want to type in, your own search key phrase, things like that. But what this represents, and we're going all the way back until June of 2015 to look at this data on aggregate, is these are how-to searches, meaning how to buy a home, how to buy a home, how to get a mortgage, everything that's related to how to when it comes to home buying. And what we can take from that is these are the type of searches that people do, shockingly enough, is they've never done this before. So that means that they're typically, or more than likely, a first-time buyer or renter. So when we know that people are starting to search for these how-to, this is kind of can help determine what type of content we need to be producing, what we need to be putting out on our website, how we need to be interacting with our buyers. And you can see from that scale of 0 to 100, you can see the trend line since 2015. It's kind of been slowly and gradual going. And if we've known that millennial, that first time buyer, they've been delaying that home purchase, right? They've been delaying having kids. They've been delaying that home purchase. But look at that spike back up to 100 under these first time buyer renters and inquiries. So really, really important as we set up to understand the difference. And when we get into the boomers, we'll talk about how it actually looks very, very different for that 55 plus buyer. Versus what it looks like for that millennial buyer.
Good segue. So the experienced boomer buyer, we found that they're more of a repeat buyer, right? These aren't people that are buying their first home. They're much more particular in their wants and needs, especially having gone through multiple homes. They have kind of the checklist of must-haves, especially as they are either retired or they're approaching retirement, and they take longer to search. So once again, I'll expand more on each of these, but keep in mind that this group arguably was the most affected by COVID. And Matt has a lot of data, or at least some data here to suggest that. But it'll be interesting to follow this group throughout the year to see where they were, where they are now, and where they end up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that we were able to do here is pull out, because as Group 2, we work with builders all across the country. We work with a lot of builders that do 55 plus as well, targeted. So this actually tells a little bit different stories. We talked about, how big of an upswing traffic as a whole saw, how big of an upswing organic traffic was, the massive search inquiries for, what they can do at home and how to work from home and, how to make bread at home. And even now the how-tos from a renter perspective. It's a little bit of a different tale when it comes to the 55 plus buyer. And so it'll be a little interesting. There's some conflicting data and slides a little bit later as Zillow pulls from that end of 2019 pre-COVID, right, that we weren't expecting. But the blue line, the dark blue line is still 2020, and the light blue line is still 2019. So this data trend line looks very different than what we saw for everything on aggregate, and even when we break out those renters and first-time buyers and first-time move-ups. You can see that the 55 plus buyer was much more greatly impacted by COVID, right? Because if you watch the news, you need to go curl up in the fetal position in the corner and suck your thumb because it's all coming down on you. But obviously, the older you are, the bigger of an impact that COVID can have on you. But you can see that we dropped below 2019 levels here with the 55 plus buyer, and my Ghostbusters reference is we never crossed the streams with the other buyer data sets, right? But here our streams crossed, and we dipped below 2019, and we're just now starting to get back on track to be even with 2019 for that 55 and over buyer. So it's been a really interesting look, but it's kind of a tale of two buyers here.
So as I go through the insights today and we dive into these two groups a little bit more specifically, keep one thing in mind: have empathy for the buyer's mindset, right? So the emotional state of the buyer is likely to differ based on their reasons for their move.
Yep.
Okay, millennial buyer. We're going to go in here, their needs. Okay, so 50% of the new construction millennial buyers say that a life event played a role in their move. So once again, marriage, children, jobs, pandemic now. It's good to know the reasons. It's definitely going to help with your communication. And this is compared to only 33% of new construction, that are impacted by life events that are boomers. So 50% of millennials say that some big event likely triggered a move. And with this, I think, it's even more relevant now because of COVID, because there's a lot of millennials that are living kind of in these downtown areas. And I think of Seattle, and they're already starting to look out in the suburbs a little bit more. So I envision that this number is only going to go up as we pull kind of new survey data from this year.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
And then this is kind of like a, common sense here, but millennials' first point of discovery is definitely online compared to the baby boomers, which is only 28%. Millennials say that, 62% of them learned about their home online. Once again, it's kind of a no-brainer, but you need to know that technology is super important to this group. And that's going to come into play here in just a second. So 3D tours. I know that for, a lot of builders, this wasn't something that maybe you implemented until COVID and you start to see this pandemic. But for millennials, and keep in mind, this is all pre-pandemic numbers here, 71% of millennial buyers say that 3D tours would help them, feel better about the space as compared to only 44% of the boomer buyers. I'd asked a question or yesterday during a panel where there was a bunch of great builders that were talking about kind of the experiences of getting through COVID. And there was something that I wanted to ask, and Matt was also thinking it as well, because he asked it, which is, you've been forced to kind of jump ahead 5 years in technology. And, one of the questions I had is, how likely are you to continue that technology as we return to a little bit of like normalcy? And, the hope is that you're going to continue to do these things, because we think it's super important to adapt to their needs. So adapt to the buyer's needs. Do not expect them to adapt to yours. I can't stress that enough, but that's kind of what we had to do, or that's what we're starting to do as this pandemic occurred, is you're embracing this technology, the consumers, they needed it from the beginning. Now you have these amazing connections, and it's on us as builders, or as you guys too, to continue with this technology, because this is how millennials want to communicate.
Yep, absolutely.
And then millennials, they're more likely to expect to buy at a higher list price. If you look at those kind of middle blue circles there, 42% of millennials expect to buy higher than the listing price, as compared to 9% in baby boomers. Baby boomers, they're at 50%, expect to buy at the listing price, or in a lot of cases, even below. For millennials, for them, it's all about value. They want to know that they're getting value. And this is where I think as a builder, you can really compare to resale, because there's a lot of hidden value in new construction. A lot of millennials don't know about that. So talk about the hidden cost of home ownership for resale, things that you necessarily don't have to come across if you buy new construction, obviously because of warranties, but also because a lot of things are newer, and it's just, they're not going to break as quickly as something in resale.
Yep.
And then it's huge. Millennials, they need more communication. So 47% of millennial buyers say that their builder didn't communicate enough. Be transparent, right? And silence is really an issue. I'm going through the process of actually selling a property right now. And although I'm just on the outskirts of the millennial, I am thinking a lot like a millennial, because it will go just a day or two, or even like a week, without hearing from a real estate agent. And I find myself wanting to email, text, or reach out to him, because I kind of feel that silence means that there's something wrong. I want to know about every step of the process to kind of make me feel at ease about either the selling or the buying process. And millennials, this is one of their biggest pains. So over communicate and know their preferred method.
Yep, absolutely.
And just overwhelmed. We talked about it, but millennials are just overwhelmed more than other generations about the whole buying process. There's a lot of unknowns in it, so once again, communication is going to be the secret, and be transparent on everything. Don't hide the costs. That was the, number one reason, price, for that gap. So be transparent of the hidden costs, be transparent of everything that goes into it. And you're definitely going to start to earn their business.
Well, and Jake, this ties right into what we were talking about with that slide with the millennials being overwhelmed than other generations, ties into the big spike that we've seen in how-to searches, right? Just how to buy a home, how to get a mortgage, how to do all these things. And as a builder, if you can be a source of information, a resource for that buyer specifically, that millennial buyer is proven to reward the people that are providing helpful resources with their business. You would start to see that they come back around to that original source. So just think about it's educational selling, and making sure that people understand what they're getting into every step of the way.
Yeah, and real quick, you can keep it on that slide, but
Sure.
This is a lot of times their first home. This is the biggest purchase of most people's lives. It's your first home, and there's a lot that you don't know. So as you said, it really comes down to education, make them feel comfortable, and over communicate.
Yep.
And then we summarize. We're going to summarize at the end of the millennial here. We're going to summarize at the end of the boomer, but ensure your online listing content is rich, informative, and mobile optimized. This is a group that lives on their phone. They live on their mobile devices, whether it be iPad, iPhone, or Android. And then use visualization tools to help bridge the digital gap or physical gap. That's extremely relevant today. This is a group that's probably going to be a little bit more health conscious. They're not going to want to jump right out to the model homes or the sales centers right away. So you have to be able to give them that experience digitally, which often is 3D tours or even virtual tours. Communicate promptly, as I mentioned. This is a group that, if you think you're communicating enough, you're probably not. So you're going to want to over communicate, make it frequent, and know their preferred method. Ask them right up front. Do you prefer that I text you? Do you want emails? Do you want phone calls? Is it some other communication method that maybe they use through their work? Or it could be a combination of all. But make sure that you've had those conversations and you know what their preferred method is. And then be transparent about the costs, options, and timelines. Timing was the second reason for that gap with people considering new construction and people purchasing. there's delays, there's things that happen. And if you want to promise something that's going to be hard to deliver because of a timeline, this is a group that they're going to be unhappy. So you have to explain that things can happen. Weather plays into this. If we're going through COVID, obviously, in your area, obviously there's certain rules and restrictions that maybe new construction builders, have to abide by. So make sure you're upfront with those. And this group is going to be, as you mentioned, Matt, going to reward you in referrals and in future business.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we saw all across the country with builders, when we talk, because you mentioned the virtual tours, and I think having that is that part of it is not going to go away moving forward. And we saw a very distinct, where we saw the difference between that 55 plus buyer and the younger buyer. The younger buyer was definitely much more comfortable with virtual tours, virtual buying. And one of the things that we saw, and not that they didn't, but one of the things that we saw, where we saw the most pushback on virtual was with that 55 plus buyer. Now they absolutely did, they absolutely pushed through and purchased, but that was where we saw the most pushback. And they were more like, I want to make sure I see it in person. I'll delay to, not that I'm not interested, but I'm going to delay so I can see it myself, or I'd rather do this face to face. But having the ability to let buyers kind of choose their own adventure, right? Having a singular call to action of, pick your appointment, pick your showing style, and let them see virtual, 3D, in-person tours, let them schedule on demand and on demand access to homes. Giving them that pick your own journey kind of method is really going to let them feel like they're in control, because they are, and that's what they want moving forward.
Yeah, and virtual tours was kind of an interesting one because it's technology that a lot of builders did not utilize. There were some, and some of them did it very well. But a lot of them didn't, and it became out of a need, kind of necessity. So this is right as I spoke to before, which is, adapt to their communication style. Millennials prefer to kind of, they don't want to jump right in initially. They're not the ones that are going to come, bowling right into a sales center and dive right into it. They're going to want to kind of get their feet wet, and they're going to reach out through a virtual tour to see if this might be something they're interested in. So you have to provide them these tools that they prefer to communicate with. So, adapt to their needs. Don't force or demand them to adapt to yours.
Yep, absolutely.
And then the boomer buyer. So, you'll hear more about their journey. Their needs are definitely different. If you go to the next slide here, this is probably one of the slides that I wish we had time to update it now that we're in COVID, because this is a stat that's probably going to change the most. This is a group that's, less impacted by life events and market dynamics. 60% of new construction boomer buyers say that neither life events nor market dynamics played a role in their move. Perfect example, unforeseen events and how the stat will likely change on a dime or change in a matter of months. Events, they can affect current home sales, the market, and thus can affect their decision. So we'll see how this changes throughout the year. But definitely this is a group that, as you said, has been told to basically curl up in a fetal position and don't go outside or have any contact. How are they to say that this market isn't affecting their decisions to move forward when it likely is?
Yeah, absolutely. They were less likely by life events to have anything negatively affected than insert global pandemic, right? Like that is, and we saw that shift in even the buyer searches and activity. So it's really interesting.
But regardless of a pandemic, they're still going to take longer to search. This is a group that on average takes 6.6 months to find their home, compared to millennials, right? Where they're in a little bit more of a hurry. Instant gratification, right? So 4.3 months. This group is just willing to wait. They know what they want and they're going to wait for it. So I can just hear a boomer saying, right? I can imagine my parents saying, patience is a virtue, and they're definitely practicing what they preach. So in terms of communication, you need to be patient with this group, right? Whereas a millennial, you might fire off a text, you're going to get an answer within maybe a couple minutes. This is a group that you might call them, leave them a message, and you maybe won't hear from them for a while. So they don't have the sense of urgency, and that's something that you need to respect. Know their preferred communication methods, continue to follow up on a regular basis, but don't be too pushy or you possibly could lose this group.
Yeah.
And then this next slide, this is one of those as well, kind of to that 60% about the life events, not affecting their move. 25% of boomers say that they found their home via a sales center. Obviously, this has changed because we're in COVID. But just because they're not going online doesn't mean that they won't go online. I think Laura Hansen mentioned yesterday in that roundtable that there was like an 80-year-old couple, and people were helping them use an iPad on how to do a virtual tour. And keep in mind that this is a group, they have children, they have grandkids, they have people that are willing to help them through this. So even though they may not be moving as quickly or have been able to go see homes as often as they want because they prefer a sales center, they still have an interest and a desire to move. So it's how can you help them adapt maybe? How can you help them use the technology that's available to show them and give them that experience that they want? Because for them, it really is about the experience. And so many builders do a great job with that experience, walking them through sales centers and ultimately earning their business.
Yep.
In this group, obviously we mentioned that this isn't their first home. This is, their second, third, or maybe even the last home they kind of see themselves retiring in. They care about features. So asked to pick their top reasons for buying a newly built home, boomers are going to say appealing home features, whereas millennials, as I mentioned, for them, it's about price. So they want to know they're getting the best value for their money. As a builder, you have an opportunity to do something that a used home cannot. You guys can change the floor plans. You can, this group, the boomers, they can get the exact floor plan they want with the exact features and amenities. And that's really what they want. How many of us have bought our first home and it's new construction, or bought a new construction home, and we often catch ourselves saying, oh man, I can't wait to build or buy my second one because all those things that I didn't know the first time, I know how to do differently this time. That's true with this group, except for this might be their third or even fourth home that they've gone through the purchasing of.
I also think the definition of, especially right now, the home is the best value for the money. We really need to define what value is here, right? Because value doesn't have to be the least expensive option, especially now when we're talking about work from home, live at home, the whole thing. Value is being able to determine the way that you live on a day-to-day basis, and not just live, but the way that you work and interact with your own normal life at home, because it's going to continue moving forward where the work life and the normal life start to blend, at least in the home environment. And so defining what that true value is really, really important. And I think it's really important to put out there, especially from a marketing perspective, and changing the tone or changing the thought process of that word value. Because there is, to me, massive value in being able to have my house set up the way that I want it to be. And this truly becomes something that is completely separate from, and you cannot do with with a used resale home, right? Unless you gut it, and then all the way down to the studs, and you still can't do everything because you've got load bearing walls and things like that you have to deal with. So you don't have that type of ability. So I think we really want to focus in and define that term value and what our marketing message is, and then even into the sales conversation that we're having with our customers.
All right, so how to help the boomer buyer, kind of summarizing. Ensure that the sales center and tour experience is exceptional. I would add virtual tour in this because for many of us around the country, we can't offer that sales center experience that maybe they're used to, have read about or experienced in the past. So make sure you have all the options for them. Make sure that you address kind of their comfort level and walk them through, how to actually do this. Be transparent on all lot, feature, floor plan, and finish options available. This is a group that they may not come out and just say what it is they're looking for. So you have to ask a lot of questions. You need to provide, these are all the options available. And they know what they want because they've gone through this before. And follow up frequently, but respect kind of the patience, right? Respect that they do take a little bit more time. So you can't be pushy with the boomer group.
Yep.
And so what can you do kind of overall to end this, to ease their journey? Our key takeaways are, have empathy for the buyer's mindset, right? Know what's driving them to make this purchase, the largest decision or purchase of their life. And you can reference that. And it's okay knowing that. And knowing that's going to actually help kind of set the stage for how you approach the overall sale. Be flexible to meet their differing needs. As I mentioned, for millennials, they have a lot of needs. They have a lot of requests. There's kind of a lot of quirks in there. Make sure you know that. Strengthen your online presence with compelling content. We can't stress that enough. If there's any positive that's come out of COVID, it's the amount of content that we've seen that builders are investing in right now. And it's clearly showing through all the traffic and all the clicks and all the leads that our builders are getting, to where we've heard success story after success story in a time when you might suspect, the opposite. And then educate on the process and be transparent. Don't hold anything back. Be extremely transparent around the timeline, the costs, all the features, everything, because this is where both groups, they want to know everything, and you have to be able to educate them on that. And once again, if COVID has taught us anything, adapt to their needs and don't expect them to adapt to yours.
Absolutely. And one of the things when talking about the strengthen your compelling content, and I shared this a little bit yesterday, but one of the things that we saw on social media, specifically with builders that increased their content, the level of content that they were putting out there, from not just away from just regular static photos into virtual tours and live videos and just really being media rich, versus the builders that just didn't change anything, right? They didn't stop. They just didn't change what they were doing. We saw the builders who increased or did a better job of doubling down and on the content that they were doing and putting out compelling content, saw a 25% increase in overall consumer engagement. And the buyers that, or the builders that didn't do anything different, exactly the way they were doing pre-COVID, actually saw a 25% reduction in buyer engagement on social media. So there's a 50% swing from keeping status quo to actually engage in putting out compelling content. That in itself is it tells a big story right there, right out of the gate.
All right, so thank you again. We can't give you a physical copy of this. They're actually all sitting in our headquarters at Zillow right now, and it's closed. But we have made it available online. So go to zillow.com/resources/new-construction. That's our resource center just in general. So you're going to see a ton of information specifically to new construction, but you can also download the free Consumer Housing Trends Report. And then keep looking for our next one. We obviously are going to promote it, but we're just about to start up the surveying. Once again, about 13,000, buyers, sellers, renters, and new construction buyers. Yeah. So just so everybody, I've got a couple questions I'm going to come in, and then we have Lynn from Enter Now that we're going to bring on, and she's going to share some ideas and tips about the on-demand showings. But somebody just said, will you repeat that? So it was zillow.com/resources/new-construction. We'll share these slides with this recording, and so you'll be able to go through these slides again, as well as you copy and paste the URL out of that too. So that'll be a free download. What I'm going to do here, so I can interact with the chat, because I can't do it while I'm sharing my screen and full mode there. All right, so I've got a question here from Derek. Demand has been high and homes are selling before they're finished. How do you approach a virtual tour of a specific home when you don't have the home finished? We have a gallery of homes, but they may not relate to the same home. Do you think millennials are okay with it as a representative of quality and style? All right, there's like 4 questions in there, all good questions. There are multiple things you can do here, Derek, so really good question. Well, I think, and Jake, I'm interested in your opinion too on this. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. If it's a brand new product, Lynn's coming in for us here. And so if it's a brand new product, you can go the rendering route and have someone take the CAD file and completely do it from scratch. So you've got some product, you can use that to sell from that way. You can also do progression.
I think that's an okay story to tell. And you can actually make it look like you've done it on purpose, where you're showing the progression of the home all the way through. And then at the end, obviously, you can get what that home looks like when it's completely done. And then that ties into the representative of quality and style. So we can show similar products that are going to be like that. You can do real-time renderings of the interior of the home and do true virtual tours. That, like Rendering House, one of our partners in this conference, they do that. They do an amazing job. But yeah, so I think those are some things that I would look into. Jake, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of technology that you can use to show them what it will be like. The key is just to communicate, right? Let them know that, this is a home that's not done yet, right? So you have to really use your imagination, and you're going to provide them all these different pieces of technology so they can piece together what the home will look like. So just use everything, but don't hold anything back. You just have to tell them exactly what's going on, show them a bit of this home, and say that you got to kind of use your imagination. But this is a group that, I mean, we're seeing homes, fly off, the lots basically in a lot of different markets. So there definitely is a lot of demand.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Jake. Lynn, why don't you go ahead and turn your camera on, and I'm going to bring you in here and let you talk about, because all this ties in together, right? So we talk about, with Anthony was talking about how we can incorporate the financing side into the buyer's journey. Now we're talking about what the buyers are actually doing in different demographics. And now Lynn is going to talk about how we can handle and manage that on-demand showing. And Lynn, I don't know if you got your right camera selected or not, but all I see is your forehead, so you may have to.
Oh dear, you shouldn't be seeing me at all. Can you see my slides?
Not yet. So if you your image will stay up. So if you click the share screen button at the bottom.
That's right. I'm getting there.
That's
Share
right.
screen. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you. So you don't have to look at, I'm hiding from my family here at the beach.
Uh-oh.
So here we go. Well, that was very interesting, y'all.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. All right. So Lynn, tell us a little bit about you, your company, just in case people aren't aware of who you are and what you do, and how much of an important role that your organization has played in helping builders continuing to sell homes in this COVID era.
Well, oh my gosh. Thank you, Matt. And again, my name is Lynn Davis. I'm the entrepreneurial and crazy CEO of Enter Now. I am the person always pushing the envelope for what we need to do next in our business. And I can't tell you how honored I am to be on this virtual stage with all these industry thought leaders. My little company has been pushing self-service as a tool for making more sales. That is self-service access, where we give a code to drive buyers who want to see these locked spec homes. And then we gather all the information from them and pass it on to the salespeople in the builder's office. So we have been doing this for over 10 years. And the reason why I talk about it, that we're 10 years and all seems like a long time, but it means that we've had 10 years to study self-service. And so what I wanted to do today was not just talk about self-service access or self-touring, but to kind of push the envelope for everyone and say, this is the 2020s, and we should be doing lots of different things. And mostly we should be studying, as I've done, the good customer experiences that others are having or that we're personally having with other companies. And so today I'm going to give you 5 customer service or customer experience transitions to awesome. And to do so, I'm going to be referencing different companies that I'd like you to study, how they do it, why they do it and all, because in 15 minutes, I can't talk totally about all these things. But we've been doing it, for a while and have a lot of insights where this industry will probably go next. So as Bassam pointed out yesterday, customer experience, or CX we call it, is if you look at it on the internet, it's all about technology development and all this and ratios, and it's all kind of data driven, a data set. But in our industry, customer experience is totally different. It is about customer satisfaction. It's about the happiness factor, and it's personal and emotional and not data driven. We want to make people happy with what they're purchasing. And to do so, we have to give them a good journey, a journey that they really like. So my first slide coming up here, and again, I'm trying to push the envelope, is start considering to remove selling from your vocabulary, from your process. And to do this well, you have to look at your own experience. When was the last time that you purchased something from a salesperson? An actual salesperson, not an order taker, not somebody who just ran, the cash register, but actually somebody who closed you and all. It's probably been a long time. And especially during this COVID time where there's not a lot of personal interaction, we really have to look at the whole idea of selling as being not from the 1900s. In the 2020s, we have to look at ways to do things differently. And purchasers have a very strong avoidance for salespeople today. And it's been going on for years. I mean, how many of us have shopped for cars on Sundays? And how many of us have, are hot in ordering off the internet right now because it's easier, and saying, I'm just looking when a clerk comes to us. Our own personal experience is probably to avoid selling also. So how do we do this in home building and remove the selling factor? Well, first of all, Forrester research says that consumers want to be 66 to 90% of the way through their decision making before they talk to anyone who's an order taker or salesperson. So we really have to look at giving tools, self-service tools, throughout most of the process. And I have to applaud our industry. During COVID here, I really saw a lot of things happening on the internet side of the world. And we're starting to see things in the other steps of the customer journey, but we really need to embrace more. So one suggestion about stop selling is take a look at Amazon. Amazon is the most successful retailer in the world. And so adopting some of the things from their website, I haven't seen these yet on any of the builder websites that I've seen, so I want to offer some ideas. And again, I'm pushing the envelope, but first of all, the most important factor in purchasing online today is the ratings. And how many people currently have a website where if, as a consumer, I click on the picture of a house, it actually first opens up into the ratings of customers who have already bought this floor plan, and what they like about it and all. So those are super important to confirm that a customer is doing well in their choosing. The second thing I would look at from Amazon is after the description of your home, I would be helping them to buy. That's what Jeff Bezos has done with Amazon. He said, I'm not in the business of selling, I'm in the business of helping people buy. So look at all the after descriptive sections of an Amazon product. They have the here's what other products people considered, the best sellers in that category, and lots of other
suggestions that help people look at other products or more deeply into that product or compare it to others. And putting those in, incorporating those into the websites would really work well to help people understand more about and make better decisions. The second group I would look at in the whole idea of stop selling, sorry about my slides here, something happened, is that we really have to look at the residential real estate business and all, because they have offered lots of self-service up front, and also they've stopped selling in total. When I started out in real estate 23 years ago, what we had to do is we picked out a house that we thought the buyer should buy, and we pick out a couple other houses. We'd show them all 3 houses, and then we would hone in on the one that we thought was right for them, because it was the best one, you know, certainly that we showed them, and we sold them that house. Well, today, customers don't work that way. Residential real estate is totally different. Realtors have made the transition to being those resources that you just talked about, Matt. They are property evaluators, they're educators in terms of the purchasing process, they're negotiators and all. They do a lot of really great things, but they've given up selling, and still 90% of transactions happen with a buyer's agent involved. So they've continued to be very successful. So when we talk about self-service, we have to look at self-service tools. And one of the ones that people talk about most is self-touring. And there's a lot of companies out there other than Enter Now, like UTour and others from other industries like Rently. And what we're all doing is we're providing a safe way for people to enter lock spec homes. And look at this on Google right now. People are Googling self-tour homes for sale near me. What does that mean?
Wow.
That is, and Meredith Oliver of Creating Wow pointed this out. People are looking to self-tour, and there are a lot of self-tour homes out there that are also offered by Zillow and the iBuyers like Open Door, etc. So it's already out there. Customers like it. We should be offering it. And there's a lot of different ways to do it. Now you may be asking, you know, well, what will that mean to my sales if I'm no longer selling and I'm offering these self-tours? Well, what I did was I pulled together some data from Regency Home Team, and we'll spend a minute on this. And if Matt, if you'll give me a 2-minute warning, okay?
Yep, absolutely.
So this is a builder in West Tennessee, and week 1 is the week of April 20th is when they had to shut down. They were enjoying about, before Enter Now, self-service touring, they were enjoying about 8 visits per home per week on average. Now, once they put in Enter Now, they saw those numbers come up. And the first week they had to shut their sales center down, week 1 was April 20th. They were enjoying 11 tours per home per week. And with the exception of week 3, which was Mother's Day, they have seen only climbing in terms of the number of clients who are coming out using self-service touring. Now, the first 4 weeks were during close down. I mean, they were stay-at-home orders in Tennessee. The sales centers were closed, yet people were still out looking at houses. Now, on week 5, the sales center opened, and again, self-service touring was pulling in still a dramatic number of people coming through and touring homes through self-touring. So whether your sales center is open or closed, self-touring is still bringing you lots of leads to then convert. And I don't have time to go through the conversion data, unfortunately, but please contact me if you'd like some conversion data that I can also show you. But just in terms of lead collection, self-touring is a great technique, a great way to offer a second customer experience for people who might be sales center shy. Now let me talk about the next suggestion I have for you. And that is, everybody talks about this buy now button. Well, I prefer to think of it as a start an offer button, because a buy now button means there's going to be no human contact. You know, you're putting it in your shopping cart and you're just checking out. But start an offer button means that you're going to have a collaborative effort with people. And putting that button on your website is just a way to show people that you have a different customer journey offering, you know, that they can actually show their interest immediately through the website with this button. And it could be very popular. And again, it just leads to a form perhaps that they fill out.
2 minutes, Lynn.
Okay, now I have 2 more ideas to share with you, but this one, start an offer, I would suggest that you look at the business called Carvana, in which purchasers actually have a buy now button and buy a car, which is a high ticket item, right off the internet. Now, what makes that successful for Carvana, where the person has had they've never touched the car, they've never sat in it, they've never test driven it. What makes the difference is they added a return policy. And the return policy made Carvana successful. $5 billion in car sales in 5 years. And it's so successful that CarMax now has had to offer the same feature. So this is something I would definitely look at. And you might say, how do I do this in home building? Basically, look at residential real estate. They have a due diligence period at the beginning where a customer commits to buying a home, but they have 7 days or 10 days to think about it. That is a wonderful step in customer experience purchasing, because they have a chance to really think it out. And you don't have to take your home off the market during that time. You can continue to market it and sell it, but it basically has a reservation on it, basically with a return policy. Finally, my 5th suggestion is, this is crazy, but turn your sales center into a coffee house. Give up the whole idea of selling and make it more of a place of gathering. And to follow this, I would definitely look at what Chase Bank is doing as they're calling it banking reimagined. And basically it's just ATMs and a coffee shop. And so you can go in and work, you can go in and do your banking on ATMs, and you can have a coffee at the same time. And think about your sales center being that kind of gathering instead of a sales center. And how many more drive-byers would stop by for a cup of coffee? That's all I have for you right now. And if you want to know more about crazy ideas to improve your customer experience, do reach out to me. And also if you want that conversion data. And again, thank you so much for allowing me to be on the same platform as you, Matt, and Angela.
Thank you so
and
much,
everyone.
Lynn. That was really great information. Guys, I just dropped the link to the conference where you can go and jump into the meeting, the next session, the live session is starting right now. So I'm ending this, click the link, jump into the next session. Thanks, guys. Bye.